Napi Sanyasena Chakarmanam Kriya Kratubirdane Atmendriya Jayenapi Sanyasena Chakarmanam Kriya Kratubirdane Tapaswadhyaya Marshanaihi Atmendriya Jayenapi Sanyasena Chakarmanam Mataji Kriyaya Kratubirdane Tapaswadhyaya Marshanaihi Atmendriya Jayenapi Sanyasena Chakarmanam. There's two more verses. I'll read that first before going to the translation. Yogena vivadangena bhakti yogena chaivahi dharmeno bhayachinnena yapravritti nivrittiman atmatatvavabodhena vairagyena dridena cha iyate bhagavanyebihi saguno nirgunasvadrik. Word to word translation. Please repeat. Kriyaya by fruitive activities. Karatubihi by sacrificial performances. Dhanaihi by charity. Tapaha austerities. Swadhyaya study of Vedic literature. Marshanaihi and by philosophical research. Atma Indriya Jayena by controlling the mind and senses. Api also Sanyasena by renunciation. Cha and Karmanam of fruitive activities. Yogena by yoga practice. Vividha Angena of different divisions. Bhakti Yogena by devotional service. Cha and Eva certainly. He indeed. Dharmena by prescribed duties. Upayachinnena having both symptoms. Yaha which. Pravritti attachment. Nivrittiman containing detachment. Atma Tattva the science of self-realization. Avabodhena by understanding. Vairagyena by detachment. Dridena strong. Cha and iyate is perceived. Bhagavan the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ebihi by these. Sagunaha in the material world. Nirgunaha beyond the material modes. Svadrik one who sees his constitutional position. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charana Arvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. By performing fruitive activities and sacrifices, by distributing charity, by performing austerities, by studying various literatures, by conducting philosophical research, by controlling the mind, by subduing the senses, by accepting the renounced order of life, and by performing the prescribed duties of one's social order, by performing the different divisions of yoga practice, by performing devotional service, and by exhibiting the process of devotional service containing the symptoms of both attachment and detachment, by understanding the science of self-realization, and by developing a strong sense of detachment. One who is expert in understanding the different processes of self-realization realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is represented in the material world as well as in transcendence. Purport. It's a long purport. Please stay awake. As it is stated in the previous verse, one has to follow the principles of the scriptures There are different prescribed duties for persons in the different social and spiritual orders. Here it is stated that performance of fruitive activities and sacrifices and distribution of charity are activities meant for persons who are in the household order of the society. There are four orders of social system: Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas. For Grahasthas or householders, performance of sacrifices, distribution of charity and action according to prescribed duties are especially recommended. Similarly, austerity, study of Vedic literature and philosophical research are meant for the Vanaprasthas or retired persons. Study of the Vedic literature from the bona fide spiritual master is meant for the brahmachari or student. Atmendriya Jaya, control of the mind and taming of the senses is meant for persons in the renounced order of life. All these different activities are prescribed for different persons so that they may be elevated to the platform of self-realization and from there to Krishna consciousness, devotional service. The words Bhakti Yogena Chaivahi mean that whatever is to be performed as described in verse 34, whether yoga or sacrifice or fruitive activity or study of Vedic literature or philosophical research or acceptance of the renounced order of life, is to be executed in Bhakti Yoga. The word Chaivahi, according to Sanskrit grammar, indicate that one must perform all these activities mixed with devotional service. Otherwise, such activities will not produce any fruit. Any prescribed activity must be performed for the sake of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.27, Yat Karoshi, Yat Ashnashi. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you sacrifice, whatever austerities you undergo, and whatever charities you give, the result should be given to the Supreme Lord. The word Eva is added, indicating that one must execute activities in such a way. Unless one adds devotional service to all activities, he cannot achieve the desired result. But when Bhakti Yoga is prominent in every activity, then the ultimate goal is sure. One has to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita. After many births, one approaches the Supreme Person, Krishna, and surrenders unto him, knowing that he is everything. Also in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Bhoktaram Yekya Tapasam. For anyone who is undergoing rigid austerity or for anyone performing different kinds of sacrifices, the beneficiary is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the proprietor of all planets and he is the friend of every living soul. The word Dharmeno Bhaya Chinnena means that the Bhakti Yoga process contains two symptoms, namely attachment for the Supreme Lord and detachment for all material affinities. There are two symptoms of advancement in the process of devotional service, just as there are two processes taking place while eating. A hungry man feels strength and satisfaction from eating, and at the same time he gradually becomes detached from eating anymore. Similarly, with the execution of devotional service, real knowledge develops and one becomes detached from all material activities. In no other activity but devotional service is there such detachment from matter and attachment for the Supreme. There are 9 different processes to increase this attachment to the Supreme Lord: hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, serving the Lord, making friendship, praying, offering everything, and serving the lotus feet of the Lord. The processes for increasing detachment from material affinities are explained in verse 36. One can achieve elevation to the higher planetary system, like the heavenly kingdom, by executing one's prescribed duties and by performing sacrifices. When one is transcendental to such desires because of accepting the renounced order of life, he can understand the Brahman feature of the Supreme, and one is able to see his real constitutional position. He sees all other processes and becomes situated in the stage of pure devotional service. At that time, he can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. Understanding of the Supreme Person is called Atma Tattva Avabodhena, which means understanding of one's real constitutional position. If one actually understands one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord, he becomes detached from the service of the material world. Everyone engages in some sort of service. If one does not know one's constitutional position, one engages in the service of his personal gross body or his family, society, or country. But as soon as one is able to see his constitutional position, the word Swadrik means one who is able to see. He becomes detached from such material service and engages himself in devotional service. As long as one is in the modes of material nature and is performing the duties prescribed in the scriptures, he can be elevated to the higher planetary systems where the predominating deities are material representations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like the Sun God, the Moon God, the Air God, Brahma and Lord Shiva. All the different demigods are material representations of the Supreme Lord. By material activities, one can approach only such demigods as stated in Bhagavad Gita 9.25. Yanti Deva Vrita Devan. Those who are attached to the demigods and who perform the prescribed duties can approach the abodes of the demigods. In this way, one can go to the planet of the Pitas or forefathers. Similarly, one who fully understands the real position of his life adopts devotional service and realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shita Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Rangayate Giring Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hariom Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. I'll read the translation again. By performing fruitive activities and sacrifices, by distributing charity, by performing austerities, by studying various literatures, by conducting philosophical research, by controlling the mind, by subduing the senses, by accepting the renounced order of life, and by performing the prescribed duties of one's social order, by performing the different divisions of yoga practice, by performing devotional service, and by exhibiting the process of devotional service containing the symptoms of both attachment and detachment, by understanding the science of self-realization and by developing a strong sense of detachment. One who is expert in understanding the different processes of self-realization realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is represented in the material world as well as in transcendence. Hare Krishna. We are coming towards the conclusion of Kapiladev's instructions to Mother Devavati. This series of verses especially speaks about, and for that matter, this whole chapter speaks in detail about the futility of material activities. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes to South India, meets Ramananda Roy on the banks of the river Godavari. The river is still called by the same name, Godavari. Very huge river. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meets him, and we know what ensued upon both these great personalities seeing each other. One is the sannyasi, other one is the grahastha who has come to the banks of the river to perform a Vedic ritual accompanied by different brahmanas. And suddenly, all the brahmanas, they see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy rushing towards each other, embracing each other tightly and rolling on the ground. You visualize this situation. This is what they witnessed. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately, he realizes about the social etiquette. He realizes this would cause confusion in the society. And then he tells to Ramananda Roy, We need to have some confidential discussion. Let's meet in the evening. And then Ramananda Roy goes his way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes on his own way. Evening, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was waiting, Ramananda Roy arrives. Very first question Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks him is, what is the ultimate goal of life? How to attain the ultimate goal of life? And to which Ramananda Roy responds with this famous quote from Vishnu Puran, Varnashrama Charavata Purushena Parapuman Vishnu Aradhyate Panta Nane Tattosha Karanam. Which means, whoever who is born in this world, there is only one purpose, there is only one way to attain the ultimate goal of life. And that is to understand in what varna and ashrama one belongs, and one should execute their duty in that position. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hears this, he says, Yeho Bhagya, this is external. Aage kahar, tell me something better than this. Even though one may argue that this verse is coming from Puranas. Of the 18 Puranas, 6 are said to be written for people in mode of goodness. Sometimes it gets misquoted that 6 Puranas are in mode of goodness, as if the Puranas are in mode of goodness. 6 are in passion and 6 are in ignorance. Puranas are transcendental, but they are written to appeal to people in different modes. Vishnu Puran was written to appeal to people in mode of goodness only. And even as the verse says, Nanya Tattosha Karanam, there is no other way. That's what it means. Normally when you hear no other way, can you think of one other verse that says no other way? Hare Nama, Iva Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva, 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 Gatiranyata. I remember when I was part of the youth group in 2006, I joined here, Spiritual Seekers. We went to New Gokula Farm for a retreat. And part of the activity we had was to climb on one of the hills. Not the one where on top you have the chariot, the other one that has got no path, covered fully with the bushes. And Shravananda Prabhu was taking us because he was into trekking, he got trained in all of that. So he told us the only way to climb up is you have to walk sideways because we don't have any trekking gear. At the max we were wearing our slippers. So he says, turn your body one way and then you climb. Likewise, when you climb down, you should again turn. And he was telling us, there's no other way, no other way, no other way. This is the only way to climb when you don't have a trekking gear. I've taken that advice many times. Even if the stairs are steep, you can go walk diagonally facing this way from one end to the other. You will find it relatively easy, even though it may not be safe. So, Nanya Tattosha Karanam. So here is a classical example. Like normally when we say, when the no other way is given, 3 times when it's given, we say it's for emphasizing it 3 times. Anything you say 3 times, in the Vedic culture, it means it's etched in stone. You cannot actually change. There's no terms and conditions that would apply. It applies equally in all the time. You can walk to the front. So, here is a classical example of a verse that says, Nanya Tattosha Karanam. There is no other way. But then here we understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is just brushing it aside. This is external. Which means when you come across there is no other way, unless you come across something 3 times, there may be some instances when it's brushed aside by the Supreme Lord Himself, not us. We can't do that. So this verse comes in the context of Kapila Dev, after having exposed about the futility of the material activities. What is given here is, whether you do fruitive activities or you do spiritual activities, everyone should be following the Shastras. Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatri Vidimbina Aikantike Hare Bhaktir Utpatayava Kalpate. So if somebody practices bhakti, whatever level of bhakti they may, doesn't matter, but it has to be in compliance with Shruti Smriti Puranadi. If it's not, then Utpatayava Kalpate, it will only cause disturbance in the society. So here this verse, Kapila says, after having exposed about the futile nature of the material activities, here he is giving different options. There are many ways how one can approach the transcendence. Prabhupada, in his purport, he focuses on the Varnashrama system. But then in Varnashrama system, we see clearly that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself brushed it aside, saying this is external. So does that mean we should push that aside, saying that this is external, we won't follow? Srila Prabhupada, in one famous morning walk, he says, I have given you 50%. This is as late in 1976. Srila Prabhupada was telling to some of his senior disciples, I have only given you 50% of what I want to give. And then the devotees ask, so Prabhupada, is Varnashrama the remaining 50%? Prabhupada says yes. And then Prabhupada explains, even though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pushes it as external, even though this is not the ultimate goal of life, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu not just once, he brushes it aside 2 times in the same South Indian tour when he goes to Udupi. And when he asks the Tattvavadis, what's the goal of life and how to attain the goal of life? They say goal of life is to go to Vaikuntha. How to attain the goal of life? Guess what they say? Same, to do our Varnashrama Dharma. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastises them. You profess yourself to be Tattvavadis, somebody who has understood the essence of the philosophy, and yet you don't know what the ultimate goal of life is, and you don't know how to attain that ultimate goal of life. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, ultimate goal of life is to attain Krishna Prema, to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the means by which to attain the ultimate goal of life is to do devotional service. Prabhupada writes a purport on that. Still Prabhupada says, I have given you only 50% and the remaining 50% is Varnashrama system. 50%. And then Prabhupada says to his disciples, yes, we have introduced our method of practicing Krishna consciousness. Chant 16 rounds, follow 4 related principles, do devotional service. But our experience is vast majority of the population are not in a position to take that up. So they have to take it up gradually. Now here is the missing link. Even though this verse features in the Shastras, Vishnu Puran, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pushes it aside because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is talking about not just something superficial or not something on a more fundamental level. He is talking about the most ultimate goal of life. So while Varnashrama system do offer us that opportunity to go to the path of transcendence, it's going to take long time. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 272, Esham Brahma Sthiti Partha Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati Stitva Shamanta Kalepi Brahma Nirvanam Richati. The translation for this is, that is the way of spiritual life, situated in which one can attain perfection, one can attain transcendence, Esham Brahma Sthiti Partha. And one can be free, Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati. Vimuhyati means one illusion. One can be free from illusion, one can attain transcendence, even at the time of death. Normally, all of us, some of us are students here, some of us have been students in university. If they say deadline for your assignment is Monday morning 9 a.m., What time do you usually finish? 8:59, correct? Why do you usually take it till 8:59? Either it's difficult, most of the time, almost all the time is procrastination. We just keep postponing it. Krishna knows about it. I once saw a caricature that says one person tries to distribute a book to a baby, and the speech bubble goes too young, and then grows after some time. They are in youthful stage. The same baby has grown, come to youthful stage. Again, one devotee is trying to distribute book, speech bubble goes too busy. And then again, continues, the person gets old, then the speech bubble goes too old. And one day the person is dead with a cloth covering the face. All you see is just a dead body. And there it says, too late. So we tend to think there is still more time, there is still more opportunity. We are too busy doing something. We tend to postpone. Krishna knows about it. Krishna knows that we have the tendency to postpone things, but Krishna is still giving us hope. How much hope? He says, at least try this even at the time of death. Till that point, he is giving us hope. The other way of looking at it is, you look at the extent of Krishna's mercy. Let's say a person lives for 80 years. Krishna gives opportunity for that person right from the moment the person took birth on this planet until the point of death. Even up to Sthitva-sham anta kalepe, even at the time of death. When we read any verse, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says there's a lot of emotion which Krishna puts. It's not just, we say generally a very loose term, this is just a philosophical verse. This verse looks philosophical only, correct? Yesham Brahma Sthiti Partha. There's nothing about 5 transcendental rasas, 7 secondary rasas in this verse. There's nothing about Krishna dancing with the gopis. No pastime in this verse. If you took this verse and just on face value, just look at it, it looks like, yeah, this is yet another verse, especially second chapter. That particular section. Second chapter is the longest. Of course, you have 18th. Summary of Bhagavad Gita, when you go to Sthita Prajnasya Kapasa section, oh, every verse looks the same. We tend to skip through. Skim it very soon. But Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says, actually, everything which Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, there's so much emotion he has, there's so much love he has, there's so much heart-to-heart conversation he's having with Arjuna. Here's a classical example. This verse shows how merciful Krishna is. How merciful? He's saying, right until the point of death, I will give you opportunity. Thank God Krishna doesn't say how long you are supposed to be practicing bhakti. He says you just be situated there. Do we have examples in Shastra? So many. You take even Ajamila, wasted the whole life. Can we think of a better example than that? Wasted the whole life, still he attained the perfection. Prabhupada has a disciple by that name, Ajamila Das. Prabhupada once named one of his disciples Mandodari Devidasi. The Mataji started crying. Mandodari is wife of Ravana. And when Prabhupada asked why is she crying, Prabhupada, somebody told her that Mandodari is name of Ravana's wife. And then Prabhupada laughs and he says, Ravana is a demon, Mandodari is a great devotee. And then she was happy. Ajamila Das. One story, one pastime gives so much hope. Normally when we practice bhakti, we don't tend to look at great examples because they are like way too high for us. But when you look at examples who we can relate to, of course, we can't even relate to Ajamila, great personality. But some situation, at least there's like little bit, there's an overlap. Yeah, I worked on four relative principle. Yeah, I didn't practice bhakti. Yeah, I wasted my whole life. Yeah, I tick all the boxes. There is hope. Likewise, you can take Vishwamitra. Likewise, we can take even Manigriva and Nalakuvera. Do you know how long they stood as trees? They get cursed by Narada Muni. Again, normally when somebody curses someone, right? What is the mentality of the person who curses them? Usually anger, right? Durvasa Muni, classical case. In Navadvip Dham, I have one problem going from one story to the other. I'll forget where I started. Anyway, remind me. There's a place in Navadvip Dham called Gaurdaha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes along with Nityananda Prabhu and all his associates to the place. Huge lake. And there one cowherd boy stops them and he says, my mother calls your mother as a relative, as a mother. That make us also related, so you please come. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, fine, small boy. And then he goes, and he and his mother, they serve all the devotees with a lot of milk products. Dahi, butter, makan, doodh, milk, everything. And after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the associates, they were satisfied with all of that. They started Harinam. As they were starting the Harinam, they go past that huge lake. Even though the lake is so huge, none of the cows were approaching. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, what's wrong with this lake? Then one of the devotees said, Mahaprabhu, there is a huge crocodile in it. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, okay, sing loud kirtan. And everyone starts to do very ecstatic kirtan. And slowly, true to the words of that devotee, a huge crocodile comes out. If you see a huge crocodile like that, what do? You run away, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, very merciful, he allowed the crocodile to come and touch him. As soon as he touched, the crocodile turned into a demigod boy. Deva Shishu, very young boy. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks, who are you? Can you please tell us? How did you come to be born as a crocodile? And the boy says, I belong to the heavenly kingdom, Swargaloka. I was always taking lot of pleasure in playing pranks. True to my childish nature, because of my age. And one day I saw a sage doing tapasya with a long matted hair. Because of my mischievous nature, I took a scissor and I cut his matted lock. Only problem is, the sage happened to be Durvasa Muni. Bad candidate. Durvasa Muni curses him. You be a crocodile. Why crocodile? Because you cut with the scissor, crocodile has. There's a logic for every curse. So he curses him. And then he circumambulates Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and then he goes back to Swargaloka. Cursing, when it happens because somebody is very angry. But then there are instances in Shastras where Prabhupada says the curse is given as a blessing. Because pure devotees of the Lord, they are always looking for what is best for humanity. They are the well-wishers. Whether they express their love with sweet words or they express their love with a curse, quote unquote, they both have the same effect. Prabhupada says this in relation to two instances especially. One is Narada Muni cursing. If you read that section of Narada Muni cursing, Manigriva and Nalakuvera, there is a clear sequence of thought. You will be amazed at how much Narada Muni thinks. And he says of the four things which people have, Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, Shribi, nothing intoxicates people as much as excessive wealth. And as soon as one gets excessive wealth, everything else ends you. Wine, women, all the other vices slowly follow. So then Narada Muni, thinking this way, he then systematically thinks, I need to show these sons of Kuvera a special favor. And then he curses him. Actually, he blesses him. Okay, you be born as trees, not ordinary trees. Yamala Arjuna trees on the backyard of Nanda Baba. If somebody comes and tells you that, would you like to be born as a tree on the backyard of Nanda Baba? How many of you would say, yeah, I don't mind? Okay, now I'll tell the condition. You know how long they stood as trees on the backyard of Nanda Baba? Even before the appearance of Krishna. 100 celestial years. Now, how many of you would like to go? Put your hand up again. No, Prabhuji. 100 celestial years. One celestial year, one day of a celestial year is one whole year for us. You do the math. Okay, our one whole year, 365 days, is one day. Like that, you multiply 365 times. That's 1 year. Multiply that by 100. That's 100 celestial years. Thousands of years. First thing to consider. Second thing is, we tend to think it's okay. We can just stand there. No chanting needed. No. If you want to understand how difficult it is to be a tree, best time to analyze that is when you sit for japa. How many of you are able to sit in one place and finish your 16 rounds without moving? Not even this. Why is this moving? Difficult. Very difficult. This is moving because our mind is moving. That's all. When mind becomes peaceful, we sit very steady. Even sitting in one place, we are not able to sit steady. Can you think of standing in one place? And that too not just 1 year, 100 celestial years. To be born as a tree in the backyard of Nanda Baba is not easy. And you go through all this and you see this is a benediction. Narada Muni gives them. Likewise, another place Prabhupada says is when Agastya, he curses Indridumna. Not Indridumna, Maharaj of Puri. This is Indridumna. You know, sometimes when you read the news, they say X, formerly known as Twitter. We have to clarify because it's very easy to mistake. So he is a great king of Dravida Desh, South India. He takes Vanaprasth, goes to the forest, sits in Kutir, and then he does meditation. When Agastya Muni comes there along with his associates, he fails to show proper Vaishnava etiquette to welcome them. So Agastya Muni curses him. I curse you. Curse you as what? As an elephant. Why elephant? Again, there is a thought process. Why elephant? Because elephant has a huge body. Normally, when somebody has such a huge body, the brain size should be proportionately bigger, right? But he says elephants are not like that. Even though they have such a big body, as if they have a huge brain, their brain size is actually quite small. I've shared this before. If you go to South India, in most of the temples they have elephants. They actually have a small chain tied around their feet. In fact, even 1 foot is enough for an elephant. Like an anklet. It won't be tied to a pole. But you ask them, they say, reason why they tie that is, when the elephant was a baby, at that time they tie this anklet, it's just a chain, and the chain in turn will be connected to a rope that will be tied to a pole, and the baby elephant will try to pull away. It can't, because it's tied, right? So it tries to pull, after some time it gives up. Then that lesson goes deep in its mind, stays there. So much so that even later on, when the elephant has grown bigger, all they have to do is tie that small anklet. Whenever it sees the anklet, it will think, too difficult, I can't run. That's how innocent an elephant is. So he says, this is why I curse you as an elephant. But Prabhupada says, this is a great boon, because for Indradumna, the amount of spiritual security he had to be able to go back to the spiritual world, it would have taken so many births. But because of the curse of Agastya, in one birth, next birth he went back to Godhead. Vishnu comes, he chops off the head of the crocodile. By his touch, Indradumna gets delivered from elephant's body. He gets on the back of Vishnu's Garuda and he goes back to spiritual world. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says, Varnashrama system is external. It is external when you look at it from the context of how quick you get the result. It is external when it comes to understanding how much it pleases the Supreme Lord. Pleasing also there is gradation. You read Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it gives so many gradation even for pure devotees only. First level are those who understands the greatness of bhakti and they perform the bhakti that way. Higher than that is those who is just focused on bhakti irrespective of their understanding. So there's Jnana Bhakta. That's the first one. One who understands the purity, the greatness of bhakti. Because of that, one practices bhakti. They are called Jnana Bhaktas. Now when you look at it, we think that's the greatest, right? We need to understand the glories. You know the example for Jnana Bhakta in that level? Bharat Maharaj. Higher than that it's given. If you go to one level higher, you have devotees like Ambarish Maharaj, those who are totally engrossed in practicing Navida Bhakti. That's all. They don't know whether it's great, less, they are not worried about it. They want to be engrossed in Bhakti all the time. Higher than that are those who are happy to do any service for the Lord, seeking intimate association of the Lord. Prema Bhaktas. Hanuman is given as example. Higher than that is those who don't even worry about the service. All they want to do is 24/7, they want to be with the Lord and do whatever that is needed. Example of that is Pandavas. Prema Parabhaktas is given. Prematura are those, Prematura Bhaktas are those who are in the highest level in this categories. Who are with the Lord, who serve the Lord, and who are overwhelmed with so much intimacy with the Lord. Yadus are given as example. When I was reading that, I was thinking, where are the gopis here? That's on the other end. They don't even fall in any of this category. They are beyond this. Then I was looking, where are we? And this is just a gradation of pure devotees. So when you look at the standard which Srila Prabhupada has given, when once they asked Srila Prabhupada, how much, there are some devotees who visit the temple, they don't practice bhakti, they like just the association of the devotees. They like prasadam, they like harinam, but they are not really taking up their own practice. He said, okay, Prabhupada. Then Prabhupada says, you see, the process which I have given, chanting 16 rounds, following 4 regulative principles, doing devotional service, taking shelter of a bona fide guru, this will take one back to Godhead in this very life. If one wants to go back to Godhead after multiple lives, that's a different thing. Prabhupada just brushes it aside, saying that's not our goal. Prabhupada was very clear, very precise. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also very clear. Now, does that mean we should put Varnashrama totally aside? No. Prabhupada, out of his compassion, he is worried. There's only a few people. When this question was asked to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, why only few people? Everyone knows that you are giving the topmost thing, but why only few people take up? Prabhupada says, you go to diamond market, Krishna consciousness is like a diamond. When you go to diamond market, there are only very few customers. But Prabhupada says, but if you go to a fish market, there will be many. So Prabhupada says what we are giving is a diamond. So there will be few customers only. Now how can we misuse this statement? Okay, let's not worry about outside world. Let's just keep boiling the milk. Sometimes we keep stressing about boiling the milk without any milk. That's the problem. Empty vessel, you keep boiling, you know what happens? Have any of you have that experience? You think you have already filled it up and then you get a burning smell. Actually, you can't even use such vessel again. I once busted a kettle. First lesson I learned in ashram. I thought I had the water in and I was turning it on. These days they don't turn on that easy. Sensor is there. But the ones we had 12 years ago didn't. And then I was waiting, suddenly you get the sound. He's like, yes, it's boiling. Nothing, only the smell comes, you open it, it's gone. So we should not take the instructions of Acharya. Prabhupada, there are instances where he made exception. We can't take the special instruction that's given to a person, take it, stretch it, and make a whole philosophy, make a whole norm about it. No. Prabhupada was very clear when the devotees asked, what's the best way to please you? First thing is, the Shastras say, those who try, it's in Bhagavatam, those who try to please the spiritual master, who are they? Those who think they can repay rather the favor of the spiritual master. They are considered jokers. That's the word that's given. So we can't repay, but Prabhupada said, for what I have given, you cannot repay, but you can try to please me. So in that context, if we see this, it will make more sense. Otherwise, superficially we think Varnashrama, generally we think Varnashrama means somebody living in farm. Isn't that what we think? We live in city. Prabhupada says, Varnashrama means we engaged in each one. In fact, when he's explaining this verse, quoting Kapiladeva, Prabhupada says, it's the same thing, but you can have a different understanding, you can have a different experience, depending on how you perceive and how you approach it. Kapiladeva gives this analogy, beautiful analogy. If you take milk, each one of our senses can experience milk in different ways. Nose can smell the aroma. Eyes can smell a white liquid. Tongue can smell the taste. It's the same object, but different senses can approach it in different ways. Same way, the ultimate goal is Supreme Personality of Godhead only. Each one of these different processes, either directly or indirectly, they seek to attain that perfection only, but different means. Just like how the same object is being sensed by different senses differently. So here, for the four varnas and ashrama, Prabhupada says there are four orders of the social system: Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. And Prabhupada says, Krishna says this also in Bhagavad Gita. Even though there are some of these items which are common for everyone, there are certain specific prescriptions that's given. For brahmacharis, grahasthas, vanaprasthas and sannyasis. Here Prabhupada says, for grahasthas are householders, performance of sacrifice, distribution of charity, and action according to prescribed duties are especially recommended. So this is for grahasthas, performance of sacrifices and giving in charity. Similarly, austerity, study of Vedic literature and philosophical research are meant for vanaprasthas or retired persons. Study of Vedic literature from bona fide spiritual master is meant for brahmachari. Study also means giving it out. Book distribution. Especially, that's the primary dharma for brahmacharis. Of course, everyone has to do. Likewise, sacrifice, charity, everyone is supposed to do. But there is something which are pinpointed as specific dharma. What it means is, if a grahastha, they focus, apart from all the other activities, if they focus on doing the sacrifice and charity, they will be in their position of strength. Normally we emphasize on position of strength a lot, which is good. What we don't talk about, unfortunately, much is, we go to the position of strength. Sometimes you come to the class and you go find a vantage point and you feel very happy, yes, I got it. Even for japa, you go to the point and you comfortably sit. That's not a great achievement. After going to that position, what are you going to do? Are you going to focus nicely on your japa? Are you going to sit and hear the shastras properly? That's what matters. But normally we talk about only the first half, correct? One should go to the position of strength. Okay, and then. So going to the position of strength is only one half of the story. Choosing the ashram is only one half of the story. Which means, as grahasthas, the prescribed duty that's given is charity and performance of sacrifice. If you don't do, then you won't realize the full potential of the grahastha ashram. As simple as that. You won't feel the full strength of the grahastha ashram. Same way, if somebody is a brahmachari, what is given? Studying of the shastras and distribution. If you don't do either of this, both of this, you will find even leading a brahmachari ashram as a big struggle. That's what it means. We have range of duties. Everyone has to actually clean. If you go to deity department, if you are entering in your roster for cooking, everyone has to cook. You can't say I'm a brahmachari or I'm a grahastha, I'm a vanaprastha. No, we do. But there are certain duties that are given specifically. Likewise, if somebody is in vanaprastha ashram, austerity, it's a must. Vanaprastha, it's not like a romantic trip to the forest. One has to grow nails. One is not allowed to cut nails. One is not allowed to even oil one's hair. What to speak of cutting the hair? Full austerity. One is supposed to take bath 3 times. Very difficult. So this is vanaprastha. And then sannyas means full control of the senses. If this is compromised, then we are not going to be able to take full shelter. We are not going to be able to experience the full strength. So what we call as the full position of strength, we won't actually experience that. As I said, normally we have the tendency to do that. I was sharing this actually in yesterday's class. We are in the process, we have from fundraising team visiting different homes. I was speaking to a devotee. I showed about the project. And the devotee said yeah, I've been here in this yatra for many years. I've seen this so many years. Let us see. Without giving any commitment, whether they'll be able to support, whether they give us blessings, good wishes. It was more skeptical. Yeah, I've seen many such, initiatives. Nothing. As I was on the way out, I don't have this realization. Sometimes Paramatma induces you to speak. I was just telling. Normally, when we go to Radha Gopinath, when we offer a prayer, what do we think? Krishna, I'm offering a prayer to you today. You just take your own time. You can fulfill it after 2-3 years. Is that our attitude? What is our attitude? Gopinath, even before I open my eyes. Correct? So I was just telling him, Prabhu, when we come to Gopinath, we offer a prayer. At that time, we want the prayer to be fulfilled immediately. But when it comes to doing service for Gopinath, even committing, I said, Yayatam am prapadyante. That's the reason why even our spiritual desires don't get fulfilled. To the extent we take responsibility for Gopinath, to the extent we own that relationship with Gopinath, to that extent, Gopinath will reciprocate with us. There is no favoritism. Once they asked to Prabhupada, we said Krishna is very neutral. How can we say he is neutral? He has sided with the Pandavas. He has sided with Vibhishan. Prabhupada says no. If tomorrow Ravana comes, Krishna will give him an opportunity to become a devotee. If Duryodhana comes, actually in one place, devotees are asking Prabhupada, Prabhupada, is Duryodhana a devotee? Prabhupada says yes. Otherwise, Balaram wouldn't have favored him. There is one conversation Prabhupada says. Some insights Prabhupada gives, it will blow our mind. Actually, everything which Prabhupada says blows our mind. Like, Agastya, normally the Karma Kanda version of hearing any story is Agastya cursed Indradumna, correct? But here Prabhupada says, actually Agastya, by cursing him, he has shown him a big favor. You read this, what? So, duty. Prabhupada says, when one disciple asked him, how can we understand that we are progressing in Krishna consciousness? Prabhupada says, when you come in front of the deity and you hear the deity speaking to you, so what did you do for me today? How many of you in this room has heard that? Not yet. So Prabhupada says, when you come in front of Radha Gopinath, if you hear, what have you done for me today? Then Prabhupada says, that means you're progressing. So I'll close that story. So I was just bringing up this point. When we offer a prayer to Gopinath, we want the prayer to be instantly fulfilled. But when it comes to offering something from our side, we are not even in theory, we are not even like, yeah, we'll think about it. Imagine we go in front of Radha Gopinath, my dear Lord, please do. And Gopinath takes his flute away and he says like, yeah, I'll think about it. Will that be acceptable? No. Then how can this be acceptable in the standard that we are talking here? Works both ways. Prabhupada, when he installed the very first Radha Krishna deity, Rukmini Dwarkadish, Prabhupada says, so here we are installing this deity. If you see this as a brass doll, he would reciprocate with you in exactly the same way. But if you understand that this is Krishna, and you take care of him nicely, you feed him nicely, you bathe him nicely, you sing for him nicely, then Prabhupada says, this Krishna will be very happy, and then Krishna would come and talk with you one day. It's up to us. Whenever any opportunity comes to serve, how much is our capacity, that's different, but we should jump in and try to take the credit. Not so much with the mode of taking the credit, but it's simply to take this opportunity to do the service for the Supreme Lord and please him that way. I was raising this with the devotee, he looked at me and he said, Prabhu, you got me. And then he instantly committed. So many times we take the process for granted. We talk about the position of strength, we talk about, yes, we have to go to the position of strength. And then what do we generally tend to do? If we go to a cozy position on a class, we sleep, unfortunately. When we go to a very warm position during japa time, what do we generally tend to do? We sleep. So from our side, we are ready to take all the concession of the Shastra on a more honest level. We exploit the concession that's given. But when it comes to going to that position of strength and offering some service to the Supreme Lord, like for brahmacharis, being a student of the Shastra, what it also means is book distribution. This is how Prabhupada has defined. So we shouldn't be fiddling with that. Book distribution, that's our life goal. We just have to take it up and we have to do. Yes, there is austerity in it. Yes, difficult. Sankirtan is a service of getting rejected only. But good thing is, after you get rejected for some time, when you talk to people, there's only 200 days you'll reject me. I've gone through all of that. Okay, speak. Be ready with the next reply. You'll get used to it. Understand? But that's what we sign up for. Otherwise, we think, okay, staying in the temple is very cozy. We get to take Mahaprasad, we get to hear the Kirtan, we get to come take darshan anytime. Then we are only taking one half of the deal. second half of the deal will be compromised. And we can't say, oh, this is very difficult. Then we are not in the position of strength, correct? Position of strength means we should be in a position to do something. Otherwise, we are not in our position of strength. Same way for Vanaprastha. If they go to the forest and they say, well, there's no Wi-Fi here, problem. Then you are not fit to be a Vanaprastha. Vanaprastha means then you get ready to go to that position. And then that is a proper Vanaprastha. Of course, in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada says, you can just travel and preach. Sannyasis, same way. Control of the senses. So in this way, Shastras, they are very, very specific, very clear, very understanding. Remember, Esham Brahma Sthiti Partha, Nainam Prapi Brahmuhyati, Sthitva Anta Kalepi. Krishna is ready to give concession till that point. Krishna allows us to change ashram also. For Vishwamitra, he allowed. Parashuram changed ashram. Not really ashram. Varna, you can say. Born as a Brahmana, but became a Kshatriya. Vishwamitra, initially he was a Kshatriya, became a Brahmana later. Shastras are there, concession is there, but what are we doing with all those means? That's the million-dollar question we should ask ourselves. Are we taking it just to exploit? Are we taking it just to justify what we are doing is right? Or are we taking it genuinely understanding that, yes, this gives me a position of strength, it gives me a means to offer service to the Lord, am I doing it? What did you do for me today? That's a good question to think about. What did I do for Radha Gopinath today? In that mood, we should go and ask. And when we read the Shastras, let us remember Chaitanya Charan Prabhu's words, there is a lot of emotion behind each and every statement of Krishna in the Shastras. When Krishna says, Sthitva Anta Kalepi, even up to the point of death, I am ready to wait. You try till that point of time. One human birth, just try until that point. Even at that point, you become a little Krishna conscious. I'll give you credit. Please try. That's how compassionate he is. We'll stop here. Any questions or comments? Yes, bro.
Study of Vedic literature and philosophical research. I was thinking that isn't this part of Bhakti Yoga itself? It's not some mundane literature or research here. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the first paragraph, the words Shaivahi, according to Sanskrit grammar, indicate that one must perform all these activities mixed with devotional service. Otherwise, such activities will not produce any fruit. If please touch upon the Bhakti Yoga aspect which Srila Prabhupada tried to emphasize.
Yeah. Every activity that we do in this world needs to have at least a tinge of bhakti for it to attain success. Without that, it is just a mundane material activity, and most importantly, we won't get any result. Which means even to get a good result for our material activity, there has to be an element of bhakti, either consciously or unconsciously. We will all be doing. Prabhupada says when it comes to philosophical research, which you brought up, there are three types of how we can get the knowledge. Pratyaksha Praman, Anuman Praman and Shabda Praman. Pratyaksha Praman is based on our experience. Anuman Praman is speculative knowledge only, inductive method. You assess how much, based on our certain understanding, you kind of like project it, you extrapolate that knowledge and you try to guess. Shabda Praman is when we accept something superior to us, which Yasyashika Nishvashita Vedahas. The Veda that is born from the breath of the Supreme Lord, that's as the ultimate repository of knowledge, and we take the knowledge as it is, coming through the parampara. Nevertheless, when we study the Shastras, even though we accept the knowledge directly, we are still allowed to do the philosophical research within the realms of Shabda Praman, which means Anuman Praman is also allowed inside Krishna consciousness. Pratyaksha Praman is also allowed inside Krishna consciousness. Rajavidya Rajaguyam, Pavitram Idam Uttamam, Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmyam. We can experience bhakti. So Pratyaksha Praman is also allowed, but it should be based on Bhakti Shastra. It should not be totally independent of that. So each one of these activities are allowed. Likewise, Anuman Praman. Is it there? It is there. Pratyaksha Praman. Is it there? It is there. Shabda Praman. There are verses in Bhagavad Gita. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarishyo viduhu. Sakale neha mahata yoga nashta parantapa. That is Krishna speaking about Shabda Praman. It's coming from Krishna all the way. Pratyaksha Praman, we have example. 9th chapter. Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartam Abhyayam. Anuman Praman. Krishna says of what need is there for all this detailed knowledge, O Arjuna. With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. Atava bahunetena kimnyatena tavarjuna vistabhyam idam krishnam ekam sena stito jahat. That's Anuman Praman. Each one of this is allowed provided we do within the realm of the Shastra. So Krishna is saying, what is the need for hearing all this knowledge? Arjuna, just with my single fragment, I pervade as Paramatma and support this entire universe. That means you guess how big I am. You understand? So Anuman Brahman is also allowed, but everything has to be within the realm. So there's nothing outside of the Vedic knowledge. It's just a question of sharing this. There is no genuine term called atheist. Everyone knows that there is a God. Everyone knows there is a controller. Atheist means I know that there is a controller. I know there is God. I'm just not going to publicly acknowledge basically that I accept it. Even though in private I do. Why am I not accepting it in public? Because there is a certain responsibility comes. People will come and question you, right? Hey, you call yourself as a Hindu, Christian, Muslim, but you don't seem to be following it. I don't want that responsibility. So atheist means I choose to be an irresponsible person. Basically, that's all it is. Nothing else. Everyone knows that there is something superior. Everyone knows about God. Everyone understands there is God. Everyone knows God is the controller. So in modern day, there is no integrity amongst the people. Prabhupada says in debate in ancient times, when two philosophers, when they debate with each other, if one is defeated, the person would accept the defeat and they would surrender to the person who defeated them. Prabhupada says in Kali Yuga, even after getting defeated, people won't accept defeat. So there's no point. So that's how Prabhupada puts it. Okay? We'll stop there. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai. Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Sri Sri Gauranitai ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samaved Gaur Bhakta Vrind ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Pramanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.